and meeting room as is customary. We honor our great country by standing and pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you all for being here tonight, and also thank you very much for being flexible with your schedules and meeting tonight instead of Monday night. We really do appreciate it. The first order of business is that we're going to review our request for capital items for the annual town meeting. We're going to go through in this order. First, we're going to start with building, then police, DPW, school, and then various town departments, which Mary McKinnon, our CFO, will present. So, Tim, if you could come on up for building maintenance, Tim Riccardi. Good evening. Thank you.
So I'm here for maintenance for the old town hall building. Last year, we got approved to maintain the trim on the building and replace a bunch of windowsills and some crown molding and stuff, and that's being done this spring. Now we want to paint the body of the building, so that's what this request is for, $20,000.
Are there any questions from the board? I just have a question on the painting. Sure. The life expectancy of a building like that.
Well, so I'm not sure when that one was painted, but I think it's probably, I would say it's probably a good 10 years.
Definitely needed it. You know that, but I'm just curious what the expected
I mean,
life
it's
is.
not oil. Yeah, it's not oil paint. It's latex, but they're using Benjamin Moore paint. The problem is now the sun just fades everything. They took all the good stuff out of paint, so it's kind of, it depends on the exposure.
Yeah. Any questions? No. Okay.
The next thing I'm here for is the fire station. Needs a roof replacement. It's asphalt shingles. I don't know when the last time we have no record of when the last time it was changed, but they're all curling and it's starting to leak in spots. We fixed a couple of spots. It really has to be done before any damage is done. And the other item on that request is there's an old boiler in the basement that they don't use. It was all removed and it was all packaged up. It has asbestos on it. It's not a real big deal, but it's been sitting down there. I just want to get it out of there. It needs to go. So I grouped that together. And that is the request for there. I don't know if it needs a plywood substrate after the roof is stripped. Depends on the condition underneath, so.
Do you need more, or if you have?
No, that number is for the amount of squares to replace the plywood. We may not have to, if it's already plywood, which I don't know, it may have been the last time it was roofed. Sure. It would be fine. I won't use all that. It'll go back. But I have to ask for that because I don't know until it's stripped. Yeah.
Any questions from the board? No. I guess you're good. I mean, do we need to approve this?
Here its entirety.
Then we'll approve it. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Here's a question, Mary, is this the number you've got in here? Is the money is available, or is there more money that?
Is there more money? What do you mean? That funding has been embedded into our capital program. So yes, I have verified that there is sufficient free cash, retained earnings and other sources. Yes.
So is there any reason not to do any of these financially?
Financially?
Yeah.
No.
Good.
Thank you.
It's going to be the fastest meeting in history. And to your point, though, if I may, Mr. Chair, just to let you know that both the Capital Planning Committee and the Finance Committee have reviewed all of these items with their respective requirements. Both boards have supported all of the items with the exception of one, which has to do with sweepers. You're going to hear from our DPW director that we are actually going to pass over the sweepers. So in effect, both boards have supported all of the items that you're going to hear about tonight. Okay.
Very good. All right. Lieutenant.
Right, here's one item that we're bringing forward, basically, capital for us is always October, always goes, is always any equipment. I don't remember in the 20-something years I've been doing this, we've never come forward for capital in the May town meeting. Problem is, it's taking forever to get vehicles done, we're behind on our orders right now. Can't let the process slack and we fall behind, so we kind of decided it's time to go for something different, based on the needs. He's got a list of things he wants to come forward with, so I'll let him take it. Okay. Just want the board why he's going for this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Which we want to replace a 2015 Ford utility, police utility, Ford Explorer with a 2023 Ford F-150 responder pickup. We have a need for a vehicle that can transport bulk items. All our Ford utilities are maxed out. We have a vault with weaponry and vests and stuff like that in the trunk that takes a lot of the space up. If fire extinguishers, we got other equipment in there and everything. So we really have no vehicle to transport things. We have a list of things that we constantly are borrowing DPW vehicles or we're using personal vehicles for. So it's road closures. We want to have extra barricades, cones in the vehicle at all times. And it'll be a patrol vehicle as well, so it'll always be available and stuff like that. Right now, we rely on the DPW after hours they're called in on overtime to bring us barricades and signage. Well, we have signage, we have barricades. We can just deploy them right away instead of, save the cost of having DPW guys come in. That's mostly for after hours. A lot of the telephone poles that are hit are on the weekends and nights and stuff like that. Found property, bicycles or car parts, safes, anything that was stolen and then dropped off at different various locations in town. Right now we use a DPW pickup or a dump truck. Crime evidence, transporting drugs, stolen property, etc. DPW pickup or a dump truck. Recently we had a large landscaping item stolen from Home Depot and dropped off in Medway. Well, we were nice enough to get one of the Medway guys to use one of their personal vehicles, their personal pickup truck, to bring it back over to Bellingham for us. Community events, transporting our tents, tables, chairs, and we use personal vehicles for the most part to transport those items to our various events. Department supplies, range, we go through a lot of backers. They're like 4x8 sheets of almost like a cardboard backer thing for our targets. We build our own targets. So right now we use personal pickup trucks, or occasionally we'll have the town carpenter, if they go to Home Depot, grab us some and bring them up there. Department supplies, we have a portable emergency lighting system that we got from a grant a couple of years ago. We have no way to deploy it. It sits in the garage. We'd have to use a personal vehicle. Maintenance, we buy our own tires. It's cheaper to do it that way. So we have a stockpile at the station. But in the event that we have to have a vehicle, have all 4 new tires switched over, we have the, we can fit 3 tires in the car, but we can't fit the 4th.
Question, and this, you don't have to go on, honestly.
That was my last one anyways.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't have to keep, I think you sold us on it. But, or me anyway. I do have a question. Would this be an open bed or are you gonna have a cab?
It's gonna have a cover
Oh, okay.
and everything, but obviously it'll be a trifold cover and we can unfold it and everything.
I've seen them in other communities. That makes sense. All right.
Everything makes sense except using it as a patrol vehicle, I guess.
Yeah.
The reason for the patrol vehicle, it's not gonna be, I'm not gonna stack it with 2 or 3 officers, it'll be 1 officer, but it's more to get it out there to have it. I mean, a lot of towns, the problem with some towns is they use it as a specialty vehicle. It sits there and rots. Franklin had one a couple of years ago, and the old chief, the former chief, got rid of it. He ended up giving it to DPW because all they were using it for was special events and everything. So it'll be, I want it available because,
Over the July 4th,
Everything,
fireworks,
yeah.
all that, you'll have it over there. It makes sense to be able to have that vehicle there for use.
What's Fund 6260?
Police vehicle revolving fund.
And the two vehicles that are in front of the station now, are those going out or coming in?
They're going to the,
I just didn't see plates on it, so.
yeah, we just moved them because we had, the park department cleaned up our lot.
Have any of the vehicles that we previously ordered come in yet?
We have two, we're still waiting for the one that we ordered last May. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I think after this, I don't know if next May we'll have to do this. I think we're starting to level out and everything, but we're still having some issues.
Yeah.
Some of a lot of changes.
Steve not coming back in October.
Probably like one, or, you know, I won't know until.
Usually when you do come here.
Right, yeah, yeah, usually we get two every
Right.
year, but what we've been doing is one, and then every once in a while we have to do two to catch up.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Okay. That's it. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're done, chief,
Well, it's done.
Thank you.
Our meeting still.
but he doesn't have to present any more capital items, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Jesse.
Great. I have a few items to go over tonight. I was gonna start with tab 4, for the cemetery. We are looking to move forward with, columbarium number 4. Currently in the cemeteries, we have, 3 columbariums that are very, they're items of interest. Obviously, we're going right through them, and we're looking to, get ahead of this and move forward with the, construction of columbarium 4.
All right.
That book in front, how many urns can it hold?
This one right here is 40 by 750. It's gonna be similar to the original. It's actually gonna be larger.
48.
40,
48 niches.
48, thank you.
I see it right here,
Yep.
48.
How many are we selling a year?
Per year, I don't have that in front of me, I'm sorry.
I'm just, why just one, I guess is the question, if we are taking it from the account that is purchasing.
This was based on the cemetery commission's request.
The next item that I have up is, tab 5. This is gonna be the design and engineering for, the Silver Lake Dam, repairs and upgrades. So this is, part 1 of 2. This would be just the design and engineering phase. This would, be followed up, potentially at the November town meeting with construction, costs, that we'd be moving forward with. So this is the design and engineering of the Silver Lake Dam upgrades.
I was reading the document, the scope of service, it looked like it potentially could be in excess of $100,000.
Yes, yeah, we're anticipating, all said and done, about 155,000.
With the 41 here.
With the
but
41
yeah,
here.
so 150 total.
Correct, yep, exactly.
Didn't we repair this like 10, 12 years ago?
I know we
Thought it failed.
inspected, as far as the failure, was it the Silver Lake Dam that failed? I thought there might have been another one that we had issues with back when.
I
It was
just
before
remember
my
Jeremy,
time.
you being on the board when we had the last one failed.
I know we're paying debt on a Pearl Street dam,
Yeah, I think it's-
but. I don't know if it's-
When you read this, it's in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, it certainly needs it. You know, like I said, we do have it, inspected. We do maintain it, but it's time, it needs to, have an overhaul on it, that's for sure. Next up, I have item, tab 9, rather. This is gonna be sewer, which we're actually skipping over on this item here. We don't have sufficient funding at this time, so we're gonna pass over this one here. Number 10,
Is that going to cause any issues with service? Like,
so this is a station, it certainly could use the upgrade. This is actually one of our largest sewer stations in town. North Main, Mechanic, and Benelli are the 3 largest. This station here is very prone to clogging. So while there's no immediate risk of it failing, we do have redundancy there. There's 2 pumps. Everything is redundant at the station, but we've had repeated clogs. It is an aging facility. It's one of our oldest. It's certainly an item that we'd like to move forward with. but we quite frankly don't have the funding for it right now. So we're certainly interested in moving forward at some point, once we get, sufficient funding available.
As long as we're not, have an issue, we're not in an urgent situation, we certainly don't want to get there.
Right, and we've had
Plus,
issues.
there's more money that
Right.
happens.
We've done upgrades to the station to try to stay ahead of it the best we can. We've revamped the grinder setups here to try to alleviate some of that clogging. Essentially what happens is the materials that come in pass through a grinder process before being pumped out. So it has helped tremendously. There is, we're certainly interested in moving forward with it, but it is going to be a substantial upgrade as well. So these are just projected costs. The DPW does maintain the site. We do go there quite frequently. We have a monitoring system in place. So if there was any sort of a failure over there, we would get notification in a timely manner. But in addition to that, we've installed a bypass there. So if the station does have a catastrophic failure, we have the ability to bypass the station entirely with a pump system separate from what's existing, and we can send it to Woonsocket accordingly.
So the plan, just in terms of funding, because this is an enterprise fund, the enterprise funds should be using their existing retained earnings. Right now, there is insufficient retained earnings available with the sewer enterprise. We're hoping that when we get recertified in the fall, for fall town meeting, that there will be sufficient funding available with sewer retained earnings to proceed with this project in the fall. If there's not, what we're going to be asking is to utilize whatever retained earnings are available within the sewer enterprise and potentially a general fund subsidy to make up the difference for moving forward with this project. Okay.
Okay. Next up, we have tab 10, stormwater. And this is gonna, with the sweeper that we had discussed, we are gonna pass over this as well. So potentially revisit for November.
What was that decision made?
Passing over this. We're gonna take some time to do some additional research, get a little bit more information on this. Perhaps the 5-year mark at trading it in and re-upping the sweeper might have been a bit ambitious. We're gonna do a bit more research to make sure we're not cutting ourselves short on the useful life of this machine.
I'll just add, I had a conversation with Joe Calamai. He called me earlier today, and he said that he was recommending passing over it as well until the fall, until more research is done. And I see Roland Lavelle, I think he has his hand up, and I'll just. Oh, okay. So what I did, thank you. What I did here is that useful life of street sweepers, I guess they did some research for about 900 hours. We have about 300 hours on our current street sweepers right now, which means there's a lot more useful life. So why at this point in time, start a new lease on a vehicle?
And the background on this, just to give you a little bit more on it, I understand the idea behind the want to keep up on these, not only for the warranty, but also the MS4 program that we have that we're required to maintain. The thought was to not have the piece of equipment go down, not be able to maintain all the streets sufficiently to stay ahead of it. But with all that being said, 5 years might be a bit ambitious, so we're gonna push that back.
Are the current diesel engines and all that in good shape?
Yes, yep, it's not so much the engines, it's really just everything else,
Brushes and all that?
Yeah, and that's gonna happen no matter what, we have for a piece of equipment, whether it's brand new or 10, 15, 20 years old, the brushes are gonna wear out. We can plan around things like that, we can order it ahead of time. It's all the things that we don't anticipate. Bent arms obviously are common, something common to happen to these things. We can plan for that type of thing, but when it comes to the more severe things, hydraulic leaks, things of that nature, it's a little harder to plan for all of these. So stocked items as opposed to items that we have to order, you might have to wait, especially in today's day, with the way that the market is today, with the uncertainty of having items on the shelf. So that was the biggest concern. Okay, so we'll pass over that one for now. Up next, we have tab 12, water. First item that you'll find here is going to be generator repair for well 7 and 8. So this is an existing generator that we have for our well site 7 and 8 up off of Hartford Avenue. This generator did experience a catastrophic failure. We do have these generators serviced twice a year. During one of the recent PMs on this generator, it was discovered that it completely lost the electrical end on the motor. So, we did get pricing to repair this due to the fact that replacing a generator entirely, the projected, window to actually receive the generator itself is 12 plus months. So it's quite substantial. So we are looking to repair what's existing, rebuild it. We do have a vendor under, consortium contract, and they're able to perform the service. So that is rule 7 and 8. And, this site in particular does have a backup generator on site. So we are currently, utilizing a backup generator, rental unit. So if we do, lose power in this area, we do still have power. So we are paying a rental fee for this, for the time being. Any questions on that one? Up next, we have the design fee and projected OPM fee for our upcoming PFAS and THM upgrades at our Hartford Ave filtration plant. So we're talking about the same area here. This is the PFAS, and then everybody knows about the THM issue here, the recurring issues. This would be the upgrades to the existing filtration plant, putting in what's required to actually filter out the water. I'm sorry, let me step back. This is the initial design fee for that portion of it. So this would kind of get the project rolling. This would account for the first phase of this project here. And this is based off of a percentage on projected $20 million project. So we're looking at a total of 10% for the initial design and 0.5% for the projected cost for the OPM.
I have a question for us, CFO. Mary, so the 0% interest loan, is that toward this PFAS TTHM project here for the 2.1 million? The approval that we received for a 0% interest
So
loan?
that will be for the construction
For the
of the
construction.
project. So what's gonna happen is we're going forward to Maytown meeting, and with this capital request, which is to borrow for the design and engineering. Assuming that we get the design and engineering completed over the summer, then in the fall, we will be going back to town meeting with the request to authorize borrowing for the construction of the PFAS treatment plant, and against which that $15 million loan will be applied. So we are only asking for the authorization right now of the design and engineering. And then in the fall, once we know what the total cost of the project is going to be, then we're going to ask town meeting to authorize the full amount of the borrowing for the construction of the project.
Saying design and engineering is 2.1.
Typically 10% of the estimated project cost, and the original estimates of the project were over $20 million.
And where does that grant fit in? That I heard Rep. Soder let us know that for a $4 million grant to, I guess, Senator Auchincloss is.
Yep.
It's not.
So that is on a list of federal earmarks that have been submitted by Senator Warren. And should that get approved, then that would be a grant of $4 million that would also be applied to the cost of this construction. And that we don't have to pay back. It's
Right.
nice.
The word grant.
Exactly.
And how, if at all, does this impact our total borrowing capacity or debt limits?
We still have room within our debt limits. The issue is whether we have room within our levy capacity for the borrowing. So remember that both these two borrowings are separate and distinct. One borrowing for the DPW building will happen on this warrant. That's a general fund borrowing. This 2.1 million that we're talking about is a water enterprise borrowing. And so that would have to be covered with water rates. And we've talked about the fact that we are about to do the water rate study. Embed this in here.
Thank you.
Sure.
And my last item, I actually don't have a tab number for this. I apologize. It's for the tree warden. Did we have a?
So I actually just stuck it under DPW. However, you guys don't have a sheet in your book. This was a last minute addition for tree warden that Jesse's gonna talk about.
So this item here, we are requesting $40,000 to continue with the removal of tree limbs and or stump grinding. It appears that there's going to be a projected shortfall on this project, so we are seeking additional funding to keep this going. And
What was the maximum needed before we had to increase it by 40?
The maximum,
Said we had a shortfall, so what was the original amount?
so the amount that was approved at town meeting was that November was one.
it was 150 at the last town meeting. But if I can take a step back to try to answer your question, Michael, so back when I first got here several years ago, there was a plan of all of the trees in town that needed to be addressed, and the total cost for the project itself was well in excess of $500,000. So we have been chipping away at it, no pun intended. In order to, as funding becomes available and to deal with critical issues. So our tree warden was in contact with our DPW department in the late spring. That's when they start to do this work and we start to see Mike again. And let us know that based on his assessment, there were additional tree limbs and branches that were deemed unsafe. He was focused on the funding from last town meeting to be addressing the stump grinding, but he's now seen more branches, so he needs additional funding to move forward with that. If it were available, he would take a couple $100,000 to continue with this project. But this amount right here is what he's requested to complete his current priority items. Does that answer it but not answer it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's all I have.
What's the land acquisition? Oh, that's the property, right?
215 Depot, yes.
45,000.
Yeah, so I put DPW on that. That's actually in the town administrators tab in your binder, but that is for the land adjacent to the 215 Depot Street property where we're going to talk about constructing a building. And instead of acquiring an easement, we've made the decision to acquire a piece of a 20-foot wide section of the land. It's been appraised. The $45,000 includes all of the legal fees and appraisal fees, as well as the purchase of the land itself that has been negotiated with the current property owner. Okay.
Anything for Jesse? No?
Maybe just a general question. I mean, multiple people have said, how do we improve this process? We've gone to CIC, we've gone to Capital, we're here now. There's got to be a better way to do this than to have everybody come in 3 times, 4 times.
I think we need to have a like capital summit like we do for budget.
I mean, it kind of gets back to the whole, if this is the amount of money, and I feel like personally I'm wasting my time here because we're going to approve it because everyone else says we have the money. My question goes back to if we have $5.3 million, should we be spending 5.5 or 5.1, not just listening to the presentations? Gotta be a better way.
There has got to be a better way. We tried a new approach last year and it did not work.
What was that new approach?
Well, I think that particular one, no. But I think if we did more of like what we do in February to hear all the capital with everyone, then everyone can do their own votes at their own.
You don't have to repeat the presentations, we just have to come in and have discussions with you probably.
Right.
Yeah, each individual board asks their own series of questions about the individual projects. And there are people with different backgrounds that, ask different types of questions depending upon the items. And so that process, that part is helpful to know that by the time it gets to your board, that those things have been vetted, but there has to be a better way because these department heads, sit through 4 rounds of meetings, giving the same presentation, not only to Dennis and I, but then to Finance Committee, Capital Committee, Board of Selectmen. There's got to be a better use of time.
This is not a knock on the process, but And the first question I would ask is, do we have $6.5 million and we want to retain $1 million in free cash, and that's why we're at this number? Or is it 5.8 million and we're cutting ourselves very conservative, very liberal, with only leaving 400,000 at the end?
So we don't typically do a whole lot of capital in May. We typically do it in November, where we know how we've completed the fiscal year. But a big part of the decision-making process is also priorities, and not necessarily how much do we have to spend, but what is it that we are looking to spend our resources on, and what's a critical priority.
Yeah, I think it becomes a bigger picture, though. I mean, this is the question of the board, is like, who's more important, the schools, the DPW, the police, or the fire? I mean, how are these numbers determined? Because is there anything on these wish lists that was cut? And I'll just use an example. What if Jesse wanted another $200,000 and someone else is asking for something on this list that we deem that's more important? We don't know what those other items are. Really?
So you should.
That's what capital gets a
Because-
5-year plan, and it's in the capital, so like, but I see what you're saying.
I mean,
We can see it, but where's the
I mean,
priority?
we asked the
in it?
schools,
Like in it.
you came up with a number of X million dollars. Did you stop at a number because you were told to stop at a number?
Prioritize our list.
Exactly, yeah, we didn't discuss numbers. So here's, to answer more effectively your question, in your book and but the binder that everybody received, you received a schedule like this. We can't impress upon our department heads enough that they need to submit current and future requests so that we can build out a schedule. So to answer your question in terms of priorities, things shouldn't be a surprise. My feeling is they should be on this list for at least a year before we even take action on it, because we should be forward thinking about what our investments need to be. If it's a critical issue, then we haven't been necessarily paying attention to it. So to answer your question, everybody sees this schedule and we should be able to prioritize from this. And it doesn't always get driven by a dollar amount. It may get driven by priority.
If I could add something to that, I've seen, in other communities where they use a ranking system, and items, where it talks about useful life, how urgent it is, if it's something that has to happen immediately, and wait. But each item on the list, gives you the opportunity to put, a value to it, 1 through 10, that type of thing. And we can kind of get a better feel for prioritization. I'd be happy to share it if it's helpful. Not at the moment, but I can certainly forward that, and, if it helps the process, someone could consider.
I'm all for, if there's a way to improve the process so that the department has on to sit through 4 meetings. However, I think it always ends back up, from my understanding, being here for a few years now, it ends up this, it's our town meeting, right? And we're the one that's saying yes to the budget, we're the ones that's saying yes to capital, so it gets vetted by those departments. And after it's been vetted, then it shows up here with us. And it's painful, I'm sure, to present this 4 times, but I'm sure you've presented other items that maybe, like the street sweeper, you'd love to have it, but going through FinCom and Capital, they said you really don't need it, so you put it aside. So you're not presenting it to us tonight. I mean, that's what I'm saying, the process and how it works, it ends up with us. We can't be first, right?
But devil's advocate, if we were all hearing those same questions at the same time, it would save time in the long run. Like, we could hear what Capital's saying about that street sweeper at the very same meeting at the same time.
I guess my
And then
point is that if
hear-
the Board of Selectmen has the ultimate say,
Yeah.
we should have the ultimate say as that one department gets more money than. Other than that, I make a motion, we just accept the whole.
Well, I prefer to hear what.
Yep.
I mean, they put a lot of work into it, they're expecting to present to us, the school should present. If anything's different, the school may have something different, I don't know what that is. But I think it would be a disservice to the folks at the school that are here tonight, not to at least present what they have. So, Jesse, we're good, thank you.
Jesse.
Thank you for your time.
Cool.
Lou, you want to present?
Mr. Honor, that wasn't a comment as a disservice to you, I'm just.
We have 5 items on our list. The first is a 14-passenger bus for the athletic department. We currently have a 2019 14-passenger bus, which has saved us a tremendous amount of money, not having to utilize a contractor. Second bus will allow us to expand the use, to take on maybe some of the bigger teams. We can take 20 students, 25 students, and again, not utilize the contractor, which can be very expensive. So we're looking at an estimated savings of around 25,000 per year. The cost is 65,000, so within 3 years, it'll pay for itself.
That's a great idea.
And there's the shelf life, 10, 15 years, we take care of it very well, so. Yeah,
Who maintained that vehicle? Is it DPW or is it just maintain the local garage? I'm
Charlie's
curious.
Tires.
Charlie does it?
Yeah.
Glass local garages. Okay, great.
Our second item, we're due to upgrade our Wi-Fi access points in all of our buildings. So we utilize E-rate funds. We've been using them in the last few years to really build up our infrastructure. So now it's time to upgrade our Wi-Fi access points. We're eligible, or we're not eligible, we're getting a grant through E-rate to pay for half of the cost. So the total cost is $153,906. We're asking for $76,953. The other half will be paid through the grant. It's going to replace about 227 points, access points. We're going to save about 16,000 because our IT department will install them. Our third item, want to do that one?
Sure. The third item is the handicap and short-term parking out in front of the middle school. We're planning on putting 6 spots on each side of the flagpole, and in the while the project is going on, we're going to light up the monument and flag. So that's like that. Currently, our handicap is all the way in probably the furthest part of the parking lot, so they have to go quite a ways to get to where they need to get to the front. 4 is BHS cafeteria hallway. We had a water break in our cafeteria. So currently we're going to be working on a project to replace that floor. If you go to the hallway of that cafeteria, it's in tough shape. You know, we get a lot of settling, a lot of concrete showing, a lot of cracks. So if we can replace the whole thing at the same time, one being replaced by an insurance company, one being replaced by the town, it would make the whole sense.
Anything else?
Yeah, the last item is the at BHS at the high school, replacing the cafeteria tables and chairs. So those tables and chairs are currently 20 years old.
With the original?
The originals. The pistons that are underneath are worn out. The tables don't close all the way, and sometimes when they open up, they snap open.
Casters too are all breaking, the wheels are breaking.
We're looking to replace those. We're not looking to put the same ones in. They're going to be individual chairs and tables. That's
I have a question. You know, back when we were doing budget conversations and I attended one of your budget meeting workshops. I heard there was a need for upgrading some of the iPads. And maybe we were talking about possibly there'd be some available funding for that. Does that need no longer exist?
You know, we're able to, I think we did some
We did some.
in the budget. Yeah, so we were looking to buy, I think it was 2 carts, one for each elementary school.
Yeah, that's what, thank you.
So we are able to purchase some. We don't need the full carts. I'm gonna scale back what we.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
I have one more while I have you guys, if we could. The access road over at DePietro
Oh,
for
yes.
45,000. If I could just give some background on this for 1 second. The reason that I'm asking our school administration to talk about this is at a prior town meeting, we authorized funding for the demolition of the Primavera School. And the wording of that article as it was presented to town meeting talked about the demolition of that building. There is available funding left in that line item now that that demolition has been completed. And we would like to utilize or repurpose the available funding that's in that line item to be able to address this access road issue. But from a technical perspective, I want to take this to town meeting as part of the capital item and declare that we are repurposing the demolition fund, the remaining demolition funds for this access road so that I don't have any challenges in the way that we had utilized the funding. So to that point, and Dennis had mentioned this to you guys before about the access road. Doug and I spoke about tweaking it a little bit to make it a little bit more user friendly, and he can go over that. The estimated cost right now is going to be about up to $45,000. And so that would be included in the capital under 50. Does that make sense?
And is this what we talked about at Capitol? So you're putting in the secondary road, so there's one for through traffic and one for buses?
It's adding a bus. It's adding.
So
a
you're
bus
doing
lane.
the bus lane, perfect.
So it would be, looping around basically the tree line.
Yep.
And letting the buses go into their own traffic lane so that there's not, Hopkins Street in the morning and afternoon is a mess.
If you've ever been down there, the traffic is atrocious.
What about that space that was the school? Isn't that gonna be a parking lot?
Believe so. This would be on to the right of that.
Right, but this does not address that need.
Nope, this is just the.
This is
access
just for
road.
the access road.
Yeah.
And wanting to get that part of it done over the summer so that it's ready for the opening of school. The remaining site improvements are going to have to be dealt with in a different phase.
Financially, it's not beneficial to be in there doing it at the same time. Or we're just not prepared for it.
We're not prepared for it. There's no plan. I know that the site is supposed to include parking and green space, and there's no plan right now. Dennis, was going to spearhead that effort, so that will need to be reassigned.
Anything else? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
No, we're good.
I think we passed that. Well.
He was tired, thank you.
Oh, do you mean for the
Yeah.
Blackstone thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are we? Yeah, just for a couple of minutes, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you're up now? You're on here, Barry's Town Department, Mary?
So the only other remaining item, I'm gonna come set up there anyway, so I've got a few things.
You're on camera this time.
The only other remaining capital item that we had not discussed specifically this evening, but you guys are well aware of it, we've talked about it numerous times, is the DPW administration building. And Kelly is on the committee, and I know that Dennis has briefed you guys. We are bringing that forward to town meeting in May, asking for a borrowing authorization of up to $2.5 million. We are still working with the architect to finalize the design. We came into an opportunity for furnishings that will help reduce the cost. So the plan is to authorize short-term debt, undertake the construction, and then once we know the final project costs, then we would permanently finance at a later date. And so that is the last item that's going to be included in the capital requests. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, that's the most exciting part of this whole capital.
All right, so then that takes care of capital. So you guys want to just take one full sweeping motion on all of that so I can get that in the booklet?
I make a motion to approve all of the capital items over 50 and under 50 as presented tonight.
And the second, but I have to ask the question, since the athletic bus pertains directly to my department, whether ethically I can vote on it. In which case it would have to be pushed to tomorrow night.
That's a good question.
Do we have a new business item on our agenda for tomorrow night? We have other business.
Other business.
Okay, so we can. So
I
let
just-
me
I don't want-
rephrase. Yeah, so-
It's the conflict.
Excluding,
So let me revise my motion. I make a motion to approve the capital items and funding over and under 50 as presented tonight, with the exception of the 14 passenger school bus.
Second.
We have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. And we'll bring it up under other business.
That's fine.
Better to be safe than sorry.
Well, yeah,
That's,
Good point.
Yeah.
Really
It is, except I would have answered it this way. If we were taking individual votes on individual items or items for a department individually, then it would be advisable that you recuse yourself from that individual vote. But since we're taking a vote on the overall capital plan of all items collectively, it would be the sum collection of all those individual votes, in which case you could vote on it,
Such as the athletic budgets within the total.
such as the total
Which is amended, let it
budget.
go through. All right.
Amended, let it go through.
Well, I asked the question first.
I know.
It's great, I know the answer.
We'll make it all work.
There you go, get us rid of it.
Do you want to do
Let's
it? Do you want to
just
amend
do
it?
it tonight. Let's
Okay,
amend it.
amend it.
items,
Second.
As presented,
yeah,
all items as presented.
ditto to what Mary said.
We have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mary. And so you guys know about report?
I do. Next you have a bid award. I don't know if you want to take care of that first or we can go out of order.
No, we have two bid awards actually. But there is a bid award for, the Rentham Road Bridge guardrail improvements. And then we also have a bid award that's not on the agenda, but it is in our documentation for the stump removal of various streets. So would somebody like to make a motion on the bid award for Rentham Road Bridge?
I move the contract Rentham Bridge Guardrail Improvements Contract 2023 WRBG be awarded to the low bidder NEL Corporation of Middleton, Massachusetts.
Second,
And the first, we have a second, and let's just, what's the amount on there? I believe it's $204,305 is the low bid. So we have a first, we have a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, I move to a vote, all in favor?
I
Aye, all opposed, motion carries unanimously. Our next,
move that contract stuff removal on various streets, contact 2023-SRVS be awarded to the low bidder Sharon Tree Service of Bellingham for the completion of the base bid and alternate items 1 through 4, totaling $63,480.
first, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, call for a vote, all in favor? Aye, all opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Budget update, want to go to that one, or do you want to go to the COLA?
Budget update, please. That's why
Okay.
Mr. Morano is here. If you guys
Okay,
wouldn't
thank
mind
you.
taking one and passing it around, I appreciate it. What I'm handing out to you is two sheets of paper. One, the front cover is a list of changes to the budget. So as you can imagine, our budget was developed many, many months ago, and over the course of the last couple of months, there have been some modifications that we would like to include in the FY24 budget before we go to town meeting. What you're looking at here is just the list of departments for which there is a change being proposed. And if I can walk you through the schedule in blue, the blue column was the column for the FY24 budget as it was previously presented and recommended by the select board. We've since been working through our meetings with the finance committee, and life has happened that resulted in the changes that are over to the right-hand side. And if you look at the second to last column called adjustment, that is the amount that I'm asking you to consider and support going into the FY24 budget. The green column would represent the adjusted budget for that department. This sheet that you're looking at is only reflecting those departments where there is an adjustment. All the other departments have been hidden from this particular sheet. And then the impact of the overall impact on the town's FY24 budget is what is shown on the second sheet of the handout that I gave to you tonight. So on the list of changes, the adjustments, I've given you some descriptions. And I'm happy to walk through each of these or answer any questions. One of the reasons I asked Mr. Morano to stay is right in the middle of the page there. The largest adjustment, if you will, is for $100,000, and that is for the school department. I know in some previous meetings, Dennis had briefly mentioned to your board that he has been working with the school department on the maintenance of grounds on Blackstone Street and utilizing school staff to maintain those grounds from the senior center up to the middle school. And this would be the dollar impact of moving those services over to the school department, that we would need to adjust their budget for them to be able to have the staff and materials to accomplish that. That being said, one of the things that Dennis and I had talked about, we want to make sure that we do put in place, and Peter and I have spoken about it as well, is something along the lines of an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement. We'll call it something different, but some type of an agreement that outlines the services that we anticipate will be provided for this funding, so that we know the expectation going forward, and that both parties agree to it. Does that make sense?
Did that need to be collectively bargained with those people who are providing the services?
My understanding is they're essentially providing it at this time, in a limited fashion. But I don't think so.
Yeah, so-
It's,
We've
Municipal-
created job descriptions for the positions, so, and outlined, you know, what their responsibilities are gonna be. After some discussions with Dennis, we talked about,
Okay, so it won't be a surprise to anyone who's actually doing the work that this is happening.
Right.
Okay.
that is correct. Okay, so right now I'm asking for the support of the funding to make this happen, and then we need to implement the language around the program.
May I ask why the DBT budget increased almost $50,000?
So a big part of the DBT increase goes along with the state's calculation of our required minimum contribution, and there was an increase in that minimum contribution, as well as an increase in the BBT budget.
We have like 2 kids going there next year, but
We have
Which
seven,
is-
well,
severely less than what we've had.
we have
previously.
75 students who attend, who are, our enrollment for BBT is at 75 students at this time.
And 5 going in the fall.
not sure how many are graduating, it's
Yeah.
anywhere between 15 and 20.
Mhm.
And then 5 students have been accepted.
But their budgets have increased. Their needs have increased up there, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
That's the fact.
We want fewer people going to BB,
Exactly, it means that we're not losing students to
unless
BBT,
that's
but
the minimum payment.
that's,
I'm not sure how that works on the town end.
it's frustrating for us because that's $50,000 that could stay here with
I
our
did my job.
students and who aren't leaving. Yeah, that's,
It's true, but on the flip side, it's potentially students who are looking for a highly specialized program that we may not offer here that you can get at a vocational school. So you're making sure that the student from Bellingham is getting what they need.
Yep.
It's a double-edged sword. Okay, so those were the 2 larger increases. Are there questions on any of the others, or would you like me to walk through them?
4 questions.
Fire away.
In the original budget, what was the police chief's salary going to be? Because there's no factor to adjust it, and we're gonna resolve that this week. Why not put that money, account for it here?
Okay, so that is the one row that I specifically left in here with no dollar amount, because I have not been privy to any discussions for the new salary for the new police.
and we
chief.
haven't started them yet.
So the budget currently has the salary for the existing salary being paid to the existing police chief. If we know that amount prior to town meeting or prior to publishing the booklet, then I will need to know that. And booklet being published May 10th. Okay, and we have a finance committee meeting on May 2nd that I would need their support, their recommendation for that as well. So if you guys have something, a projection, I need to know that.
That is all.
We
Well,
Oh, there.
well, the contingent, yeah, the
want
plan.
the contingent.
And the contingency for town administrator, is that the agreement we have with that?
I'm sorry?
What's the 10,000?
No, so that's me. And I am recommending that we add, we don't have a contingency without restriction in the budget anywhere that gives us the flexibility to react and respond to circumstances. And so there's always something that comes up. We have a reserve fund. It does require that we schedule and have a finance committee meeting, and it serves its purpose. But when you're a large organization and things happen unexpectedly and you need to be able to react and respond, we need to have a place where we can utilize some funding to either hire a consultant to do a study to repair something that we didn't have the funding planned for. And so I am proposing that we add a contingency line of a small dollar amount to give the town administrator some flexibility. And I'm asking for your support on that.
Seems like an awful low number, honestly. It's like, if you were to say 25 or 50,000, it seems everything that comes up is larger.
Yeah,
Things are
today,
expensive.
everything is $5,000,
Yeah.
where everything's $5 grand.
Well,
Know what you do.
exactly. If you are proposing a larger number for support, I would be willing to entertain that.
Well, I guess my question is,
There's so much money is there to put toward it.
There is, let me answer it by saying that if you look at the second page, there is excess levy capacity. However, we need to reserve some of that excess levy capacity looking forward to next year when we will be incurring debt for the administration building.
and can I play devil's advocate a little bit? If it's very clear that within the next few weeks, however this board looks after the election, there's going to have to be decisions and conversations happening. I would love to know how the average of what a consulting firm would be, so that we know that we have that if we need to use it, say, to hire a permanent interim, a permanent assistant town manager, if we know we need to go in that direction. But I don't know what the average, like, I can't base that on the average of what the assessment center consultants were, because it's not an assessment, I agree with Michael. I think that 10,000 might be a little low, considering what we,
So I
like you're
think
saying, what we might
you're talking about two different things.
have.
But we're not talking about 10,000 for that purpose.
No,
It's just,
no,
but it's in lieu of Dennis using the gift fund or the celebration fund or something else. It's more defined as we're hitting contingency instead of
Yeah.
going
It-
somewhere else in the
It
budget.
is for things like, we need to get an appraisal on a piece of property that we are now interested in purchasing, or we need to get an appraisal
Yeah.
on something else. And it's not anticipated at the time that we're building a budget 18 months earlier.
So,
So it's,
so every department, I mean, schools, DPW could have a contingency line item instead of having it in every department, we're putting it in the town administrator's line item.
I would not I would not recommend doing that in every department.
And I
think it
agree,
needs
that's
to be
why I'm saying I
scrutinized
think
and
the
used
number should be like
scrupulously.
50,000 and be under town administrator. And if it's never used, it just rolls to free cash.
Exactly.
I would,
Maybe
50,000.
25.
I mean, if it's gonna roll back into
It
our
will
excess levy
absolutely.
capacity anyways,
Doesn't matter.
if it's not used, it's kind of like snow and ice.
It'll roll back to free cash.
Yes, I know, yeah. Doesn't matter.
As long as there's the money in the levy capacity, it
Yeah.
makes sense to put a number that we can tap if needed without having to go and ask someone for it.
So you're saying 50, Mary asked for 10. Do we say 25?
So let me ask another question. If there's not a town administrator in here right now, who has the spending authority for?
Whoever's in that seat. So it would be as part of the departmental budget. So whoever's responsible for that departmental budget. It's not a charter issue, it's a budgetary issue. So if you are in support of the concept, because the town has never done this before, then I would support the recommendation of $50,000. Yes, we can support it within the excess levy capacity. And we can utilize FY 24 as a trial program. Now, remember, this is for FY 24. This would not take place until July 1st. So your conversation about consultants is.
So maybe we do 25 instead of the 50. Just,
Look for 50 from July 1st.
July 1st, it doesn't matter.
It's in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a month. 8 weeks. I think to me, the important point here is that the money rolls back into free cash if it's not used. It's not like it's a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
current year,
Not
it's not a
not
long
use it or
term.
lose it.
That's right.
I'm fine.
I would,
50?
I would be 50 if that's, there's any objections.
No, because what Kelly's talking about is something different.
No, but I was just using that as like trying to understand, but,
So would it
but
be-
Yeah,
I,
I know. Yeah.
but I also,
Well, in the unlikely event that we do need to go out and look for a new town administrator, right? And we decide that it, with the board at the time decides that it's in the best interest to hire a third party to help with that process, like we've done with past departments.
Mhm.
Then where would that funding come from if there's no funding available for it right now?
Where
Where did Dennis get the 10 or whatever thousand for the assessment center for the police?
So
Where did
we
that
knew
come from?
last year that we were going
I
to be doing
remember
that,
that,
so we
yeah.
budgeted
We
for it.
budgeted for it, so
We
right
added
now,
in that.
we have to budget for that. What Kelly's saying is.
But you're saying you will potentially undertake it in FY 23,
Potentially,
which,
well, we
We're
don't
not-
know,
Oh, no, right.
we don't, yeah.
we don't know, I mean, we're in a very difficult, for
So-
anyone watching, we're all in a very difficult situation here. And I think what it comes down to is if we have to make a decision, or the board as of next week has to make a decision on, what they're going to do moving forward. Where's that funding? Where could it, right now, if we didn't have it in the budget, where could it come from?
We would
I
spend
can't
it and
answer
do
that
an
question
event
until I know the amount.
Right.
in November.
So once you guys tell me the amounts that you're talking about.
But to the point,
Hmm.
even when Dennis comes back, his plan to retire in November of 24,
Right,
when would we have initiated a search? Would it be April of 24? 6 months in
Sooner.
advance?
No, more than.
So
Yeah.
that being the case,
we
there
should
should
budget
be
for
an
it.
amount.
We should
There
budget
should be a
for it
budget
for
amount
FY
for it.
24. We should budget.
So if it's
something.
25,000,
So
and I'm
maybe-
fine if we split the contingency.
That's exactly what
I think
I'm,
I was gonna say.
that's where the
Yeah.
funding would be coming out of anyway, is that line,
Let's just
professional
split it.
services in that line.
So however you set that up, 25 for professional services and 25 for your other
For
contingencies.
discretionary, yep,
So 2 more questions.
sure,
So, veterans benefits,
yes.
what happened with that position?
So that,
Without getting the names.
so that position is, now under the school department's budget.
Okay.
For the most part, with that, person providing services here, as needed on 10 hours a week.
10.5 hours a week.
10.5 hours a week here for veterans coverage.
Last question, OPEB, last 3 years, we did 50, 175. What is the sweet spot if you could have the same number every year?
I'd like 100.
That's my question, then why not make it?
I'm keeping an eye on excess levy capacity right now and making sure that we have the flexibility that we need for next year's budget. If we use it all right now, then the room for growth for next year is going to be limited.
So if we got to the May 24 meeting, you might recommend transfers to OPEB?
So I am actually, I'm glad that you said that. So I am, for the May of 24 meeting, the transfer to OPEB is in this sheet. So we will be doing a $50,000 transfer.
But if you had more money, would you?
We will do it in November because we did not put a separate article on the town meeting warrant
November
for
of
OPEB.
24? Three.
Free,
But fiscal 20.
correct, correct,
From
Correct.
fiscal 24 is once we've had everything certified.
correct. Correct. But to your point, there is one item that, is on the warrant that we, have not discussed, which is I am proposing, now that we have gotten through the capital plan, I'm proposing that we do proceed with a transfer to the stabilization account, in May out of free cash for 250,000.
Out of free cash to stabilization.
Stabilization.
And that'll leave us how much in free cash?
So that if all of these items are approved at town meeting, our free cash balance is 1.3 million. And that I have it here with me.
So just, I'm reverse engineering because maybe my brain works in reverse.
Sure.
the end point that we're at right now to say what our ending free cash is really where my mind needs to know up front before we have these other discussions about capital. Because it gets to whether there was where we would prefer to be or ideally be with free cash. If we look at OPEB and we say it's 100,000, my question to you would be, at the end of any year, what do you want your free cash to be? And I use the example when I think of the athletic budget, Joanne would like my revolving account to be sitting at $40,000 to $60,000. Where do we want our free cash for the town to be? Is it 500 to 900,000 or 750 to 1.25 million?
I would prefer it to be in the 750 to 1.5. So in that ballpark at the end of the fiscal
No,
year.
and you know, I know sometimes I'm ranting about where I'm trying to get to, but
And it's
knowing that that's the number we want to be at, it's better for me to know when we're
You
spending our
prefer
time
to
with
start there
start
and
there.
work back.
and understand where we are back, because
And I'd rather understand priorities. I want to know that the needs are real.
I don't understand, but when
As
people
opposed
come
to
with
just
those
putting money
priorities,
back.
you know, you could make a case that there were something else that we could have bought for $150,000 that a department would be like, you know, I can wait a year, but I'd really like to have it this year. If we were to
Yeah,
say,
but
let's
it's
do
about
all the trees in
priorities.
town and spend another 200,000 and our free cash ends at 1.1 million, we're still in that sweet spot.
We are, but you gotta remember that, certified free cash ebbs and flows,
Mhm.
depending upon, what's happening in our operations. A bigger part of that conversation is that we have to look at the complete capital plan for future years when we have this conversation, because we know that we're gonna be replacing an ambulance every 7 years, and they're $500,000. We know that the fire chief has already talked about an engine for over $1 million in upcoming years. So when I look at free cash, I'm not targeting to try to get to 1.2 or 1.3 million at the end of any single year. I need to know that we're meeting our needs, that we can afford it, and anything that we can save, we save for those future big ticket items that we know are coming. So we look at it in somewhat similar context, but not entirely.
But I do think there's a way that we can work with both your brains.
And
We just have to figure it out, but I
mean, I get admittedly frustrated, but it's like, okay. We went through an hour to take a vote that I thought we were gonna take, we could have taken in the first minute. Because we read about this.
So maybe that's something as a board that we decide after, that if you really want the ins and outs, then you need to attend the capital meeting.
Yeah.
So that's,
That, again, it comes down to what is in the best interest in coming up with a process that works. I cannot imagine having one big meeting. It would be a mess. It would be a mess. I'm sorry, it'd be like WW, Worldwide Wrestling Federation. It would be a mess. If there was a way to circumvent, and I mean, this could have been a quick meeting, but again, should they be quick? We may have questions, we may not. Sometimes, if there was 5 of us, there may have been more questions. We don't know.
I
Right?
think it depends on the projects
just
that
does.
are being
It
proposed.
does.
A lot of these are pretty simple and straightforward.
We've been doing this for, 3 terms, and what do you have, 5 terms? And it's still, and I think you hear this every year, right? You hear this every year.
15
Well, come up
years.
with a process then, my friend. It's okay. No, you haven't. You've said we need to change it, but I've yet to hear anyone come back.
My process is I wanted
Well,
reverse
well,
engineering.
that's big. You say, hey, you can start the meeting by saying, here's where we're at. Let me show you how we got there. That's the same thing as reverse engineering. Here's where we are. Let us show you how we got there. And we don't need to know what the school department would love to have. We want to know, what does the school department need to do the job that we expect and that the citizens of this town expect the school to do for their children. That's what we ask the superintendent to do. That's his job. That's not our job, right? It's just, that's Mr. Morano's job and his team.
may I make a suggestion? Maybe we table this conversation and instead we form
The
a
next
little think tank
administration,
to
absolutely.
brainstorm how we how we streamline the
I'm in
process.
favor of improving. However, just let's just come up with it. All right.
I think
there's
that's
still
all we
a few
needed,
more.
Mr. Morano.
Mr. Rob, if you have any great
Yeah.
ideas, come back, with them, please.
I'll think about it this weekend.
Okay, I bet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on these budgetary amendments? Nope. You're all set?
Yeah, I do.
Are we on cable 8 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a question. And this is actually directed to Mrs. Grant. In all the meetings that you've been at with the TPW building, is it realistic that we're gonna be in the $2.5 million range or less?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I know we got a lot of really nice expensive furniture and that's a huge
For
bonus.
free.
For free.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. McNulty
But,
and your
but
friends.
not, but not only that is like Roland and Tim, like they've been looking through everything the architect said, and even Tim being in the tree that he was in, was able to question, and say, nah, I don't think that, and
That's
they're
excellent.
cutting back.
Yeah,
when we
we've made
saw the
some
number.
sacrifices
So,
from our original expectation.
yeah, and I think that's been happening along the way too, but yes,
That's great.
because everyone wants to have a nice building that everyone deserves, that's not gonna break the bank, that's gonna serve the purpose and be in it for the long haul with us. So, yes.
Excellent. I guess the next is the COLA.
Okay,
Do we have to
but
vote on this?
Is it a vote on this?
are you guys all set with these?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm also, yeah, we are. Thank
Okay,
you.
so then these will go before the finance committee next week, and assuming that they approve it, then that will be the budget that's going to go forward to town meeting. So, no, you guys aren't formal here, so that's fine.
Okay.
The COLA. So I believe Hillary sent out
Your email correspondence that
Dennis
Dennis
had
had
talked to
with
us
Ken.
about this before, yeah.
Yeah, but then when the last meeting we had, you had asked Dennis to ask what the financial impact was.
Right,
Yeah.
I sent you that email where she responded to that.
Mhm.
Okay.
and if you read the email, it's all a moot point at this
Yeah.
time anyway, because
Yeah.
they've achieved the 2/3 majority. So there is going to be a cost impact that we are going to see in our retirement assessment.
But they also asked us to vote in favor.
No, they'll vote either
You
way.
can make a recommendation either way. They would just like to be on record, so.
And the increase is about $74,000 a year. And that's just for FY 24.
That's at the outset.
So, we have a motion or to vote on the Norfolk County Retirement 2% COLA request. So we have a motion
So moved.
first.
Oh, wait, what's
to
the,
approve.
oh, okay.
To approve the additional 2% COLA increase
Okay.
for Norfolk County retirees.
So we have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. All right, next.
Next was Vaughn's Restaurant. So, Vaughn is asking for an extension of her liquor license to serve alcohol on, patio, but she's gonna do it on the, if you're facing Vaughn's Restaurant, it's gonna be on the right-hand side in the back. And she's just gonna have like a couple parties out there. She's not even gonna do it every weekend. She has one coming up this Saturday. And we originally were gonna do a one-day permit, but, the governor has extended the order to allow for liquor, for booze outside, through the COVID-19. So we just decided to do it that way. So if she has another party that she wants to serve outside this summer, she can do it. So I just need a motion to, approve the extension of the liquor license for Vaughn's Restaurant for outdoor dining on a patio service per the governor's executive order.
So moved.
Do you have a first, do you have a second? Second?
No, I'm not second.
No, I am gonna second it.
Okay.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
2-1.
So that means it doesn't pass?
No, it does.
It does pass. Oh, yeah, it passes. Okay, sorry.
One.
You don't.
It passes because it's a majority.
Okay, all right.
Next. Housing Authority Commission appointment.
May I make a motion?
Yes, please.
I actually make a motion to appoint James Fitzpatrick to that, position. In my experience dealing with him and how he was here and presented himself, it is my opinion that he is the best person for that appointment on the Housing Authority. I did talk to Cindy. She obviously cannot vote. She's not here, but she would also be in favor of that as well.
So I will second that motion because I think he's outstanding. I like them all. And I want to just say to everyone that put their name in, we really appreciate everyone's that applied for the position, their willingness to want to help out. But I do believe that Mr. Fitzpatrick is in the best position to serve. So will second it. All right, great. Okay, so I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Motion carries. So Mr. Fitzpatrick, so you could let him know.
I will let him know.
Great, thank you.
We're gonna see him on Friday.
So old business,
Old business.
really old business?
Was old business we were gonna talk about, were you gonna, you had me include an email about PFAS funding?
We talked about the PFAS a little
That
while
was-
ago, so
was
that
that
was the
all-
$4
was that-
million.
Yeah, was that what you were talking about?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So you guys received that and you're good with that, yep.
Yeah, okay.
We have, well, new business before we go into the best. I just want to thank everybody that participated on the 15th of April for the Bellingham cleanup day. It was a week earlier than Earth Day. But there were at least 100+ volunteers for that day. Board of Health members. It was outstanding. And just to see the streets like Depot Street, Maple Street, the school area, South Bellingham, and there was a ton of work. And I also just want to point out, not to call out, but Coach Dan Haddad, varsity football coach, and his assistant coaches, and 22 members of the football team were there, giving up a Saturday morning. And literally, on Maple Street alone, they pulled 21 tires.
Wow.
21 tires, and some of these tires were taller than Michael and I, and they were just big, giant, because I went down in the gully and I found them. Guys, I'm not doing this. They went down there and made it up to be, fun for them. It was amazing. There were 75 bags of trash just from where Camp Bow Wow is to where Blue Links. We didn't get enough time to finish the rest toward Mechanic Street on one side. But it was unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, in Depot, we had a thing, who's gonna have more trash, and Vinny thought for sure he was gonna have more trash on Depot, not even close. It was a fraction of what was on Maple Street. Amazon was going to help us out. They came after we were done, so there wasn't much of them. We did ask them to do High Street, but they didn't get to High Street, so that's the next week. But I just wanted to point out, and also just make a comment. I know that other coaches, it was suggested other coaches get their teams, but I can't imagine if we had a few more teams, like the football team, out there helping. One of the kids had a lot of fun. You can tell they were having a blast. And
Team building.
there was team building. And I think, I mentioned it to Mr. Haddad, and I said, it would be great if we took, in the spring, we took the fall sports. They cleaned in the spring. Or in the winter, in the fall, we do it again and have the spring sports and winter sports, maybe do the fall. If we could get another 50 or 60 student athletes out there, maybe along with National Honor Society, we could really do a nice job in this town. I'm
Do you
just
guys
blown
have a
away.
community service requirement for
It
graduating?
just
And
doesn't,
it
most
does.
of it by this time of the year,
They're done. They're all
which is
done.
why catching it in the fall is better.
Again, if we can do it twice.
Yeah.
And the Board of Health organized this, but
We can
part
do
of
it
it.
on Earth Day,
uh,
don't always-
part
doesn't have
of
to be
it-
just once a year.
What really helped is that Mr. Haddad basically found out what day, what Saturday are there no other sports going on, like the kids weren't in track or whatever. It just so happened Earth Day, that wasn't the best day, because they're busy, but the fifteenth was the day where there were no spring sports. As far as games, maybe there were practices.
School vacation.
School vacation.
Did
Yeah.
Board of Health did it on the fifteenth?
That was one of the main reasons, because they could get more participants on the fifteenth than they could at a later
know.
date. So they did a good job of organizing it. And there was bags and gloves, and then they served pizza, they had donuts and coffee and all that for the kids. And then the kids had a blast. I had a blast. My wife was out there, and Mrs. Hastings, and if you all know Jim Hastings, Mrs. Hastings was out, and we just had all kinds of fun.
And the town is cleaner for it.
In town, yeah, it's a lot cleaner. So I just wanted to thank everybody that participated, and would love to see more of it. It was a lot of fun. Look, poison ivy though. No, I got it bad. I wore long sleeves, so. That was good. But that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say, I just really wanted to, we always call out when schools do nice things like the band, and I wanted to call it the football team.
Can I bring up something under new business?
Mhm.
Okay. So several weeks ago, Dennis and I had met with a representative from Senator Roush's office. And we talked about a couple of things, and one of the items that we talked about was, so since Senator Roush has been elected, she has not been out here to have a meeting with the select board, and we would like to make that happen. And sort of set up a regular schedule with her legislative aides to be in contact with that office, and to get the necessary support we need from the Senate side of the Congress. So one of the programs that we also talked about, so I've been in touch with that office because they were trying to schedule a meeting for April for the senator to come out here. I've been in touch with them to ask them to sit tight for right now until I've had an opportunity to bring this to your attention. But also during that conversation, there is a program where the senator is soliciting earmark requests from the state budget. And there's an application form that needs to be filled out. It's actually due next week. And I know that Dennis was going to put some thoughts together on that. However, I'm going to bring it before you guys and ask you if you have any specific ideas that you would like to include before I toss it over to you. I'd like to just let you know that I did meet with Jesse about this, and because one of the things that the legislative aide talked to us about was that Senator Roush is very supportive of educational issues as well as climate change issues. And she also likes to support earmarks that would complete a project or almost fully complete a project. One of the things that Jesse and I were talking about today is the Silver Lake splash pad. Apparently there's an issue with the watering system at the splash pad. Not that it doesn't work, it does work, except that the way it was designed is not optimal, and that it is not recycling the water. It's actually taking fresh water from our treated water, potable water from our water supply, and that water is going right back into the ground and recharging. But the problem is that it is saturating the area over there and being so close to the lake that it's not optimal, and they're having some drainage issues and they're having some flooding issues in the area. And so what he described is periodically when that splash pad is in operation, the operators have to shut it off, let the water drain, and then turn it back on in order for the kids to use but if we had a better designed system that actually filtered and recycled and circulated the water, not only would we not be drawing water from our water system, especially in times when we're asking people to conserve, but it would prevent a lot of water loss, and it would actually be, better for the environment, etc. So that was his number one request or project. And if you guys are in support of that, then we would put that on the list. They are asking for up to 3 to 4 ideas. We don't have to submit 3 or 4 ideas, but that was going to be the first one. The second one was going to be some handicap accessibility retrofits to some of our playgrounds.
I was gonna say, can we add the playground they're already raising money for at Stallbrook, where all of the most needy children
So
go to school?
the thing is that there's already an earmark in there from Rep. Soder for that particular project. So the likelihood of the senator supporting a secondary earmark for that project is not likely.
Well, how about just, as you've seen, there's been a lot of noise. It's a new playground at the middle school. We really are, people are complaining now, when's Silver Lake opening up so we can use the playground. We don't have, I know we went through and looked at various playgrounds. We don't really have, other than the one at the south. We do have an old five-year Macy area, but it's not easy to get to, not a lot of parking. I'd love to see us. have a
What type
bigger
of dollar
playground.
amounts we talking?
So the earmarks can be anywhere from 10,000 up to 125,000.
Yeah, I would rather see them do that at the common though, because the middle
Yeah.
school, it'll,
I don't care.
Playgrounds
This is
can be
a public
big. It
middle
will-
school.
yeah.
We need, we just need to improve our playgrounds.
I would do the one at the common,
The common,
yeah.
okay. All right, can you call me tomorrow?
Dennis is
Yeah.
thinking about replacing the basketball court. at the middle.
I would love to get really nice basketball court, do with lights and maybe have a summer program.
You know what though, but I think that's all stuff that the athletic
We have a master
field
plan.
thing is
Yeah.
going through, so.
This has been going on forever.
Okay, all right, and then the third option, which we can include if we wanted to, was we know that the South Fire Station is going to need some additional work. It needs new windows, it needs some other structural things. So I was going to include that as the third option.
I think it's
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay, all right, so are you in support of those three ideas being submitted for an earmark request?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. And we will go ahead and take care of that. And I'd like you to think about when you would like to have the senator come in and have a meeting with you guys, as a board. And that way we can convey to her what we are looking for, their support on.
I would think after
Town meeting.
June,
I was thinking June too. I think we need to get through this month and town meeting and
Sounds like a plan. I will give them an update.
thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
All right,
Thank you very
fantastic.
much. Thank
And
you.
then do you want to do want me to do the cannabis thing?
Yeah, just to, if everything's all set for the old and the new business.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
One of the things that I asked Mary to talk about was, we got a letter from MMA, Mass Municipal Association, requesting municipalities to write in regarding the host community agreements that are coming up and the changes that are coming through. And I wanted Mary to talk about the financial impact of what this law has to do.
So the MMA is asking local select boards to support a letter, write a letter. They've given us a sample, but to put it on our letterhead and send it to the Cannabis Control Commission. So a couple months ago, there was some legislation that was passed with respect to the cannabis industry that was in support of cannabis industry business owners and the regulations to make it easier for them to enter that market space. The implication, or one of the implications of that legislation that was passed, affects municipalities and the host community agreements that exist between municipalities and these property owners. We have 3 potential businesses here in town that are cannabis related. 2 are located on Williams Way and 1 is a delivery service. So there's Good Chemistry. There's a company now called Bud and Mary's. It used to be it used to be Frozen 4, and then it went to Theory Farms. Now it's Bud and Mary's. And then the third one is the delivery service called Your Green Package. So each one of them is different and unique, but we have agreements with each of them. Only one of those agreements is actually in effect at this time, and that's the one with Good Chemistry over on Williams Way. But the problem is that with this legislation, the legislation as it stands would essentially nullify all host community agreements for all municipalities. And in some communities, that's a significant financial impact. For us, it's not so significant because unfortunately, Bellingham didn't capitalize on the industry.
Yeah.
So our host community agreement that we have right now with Good Chemistry is $50,000 annually, $30,000 of which supports our operating budget. We are in currently year 3 of a 5-year host community agreement with them. We have 2 more years left. I can tell you that that business owner has already contacted us and has expressed concern over paying those annual payments to the town of Bellingham, given the current legislation. We've gone back and forth with lawyers and what have you. So they did make their payment this year, but it is questionable whether they will make it for years 4 and 5 of our existing agreement. The other 2, Bud and Mary's, has never gotten their final license from the Cannabis Control Commission. That particular operation, we stood to generate significantly more revenue, but they never opened their doors. So unfortunately, we haven't capitalized on that. And the delivery service, same thing. The delivery service, they have gone through a couple of different iterations, and we have not been able to collect any impact payments from them as well. So our financial exposure to this issue is limited. However, it's still an issue. And right now, what is happening with this piece of legislation is that the legislative body has turned it over to the Cannabis Control Commission and said, it's now your turn to define the guidelines and requirements over how this legislation is going to be implemented. And this letter that we are asking you guys to send simply says, as part of this legislation, we want you to uphold all existing host community agreements between the property owners and the municipalities. They are existing contracts, they are in full force and effect, and we would like you to support them. So that's the gist of this letter. We'd like you to take a look at it, read it, and then if you support it, put it on our letterhead and let's get it over to
I
them.
can put it on the town administrator letterhead and sign off and send it. I'm just looking for your support.
We have to vote on it, or just, yes.
I would take a motion so that you know, give
I make a
direction.
motion to draft the letter to send to the Cannabis Control Commission in regards to the legislation that has been filed, that is now with the Cannabis Control Commission, to uphold all current host agreements that are currently in place.
No, that's all right. I can move back. and
Make it up.
Go back.
Second, first, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
I think I'll put that out next week. That's it for you.
Is that it?
No, I have more.
Let me just check and make sure that's it. I think so. Yep. We're good.
Thank you. I just have two quick things. One, I wanted to update the board on Memorial Day parade. We have a concern and issue with the construction because the route is going to go down South Main and to the Common. And we've checked into the timing of the construction, and it's going to hit probably right in the middle of the worst part. We have a group together, the DPW, pool, couple of the Memorial Day committee people, DPW project manager. We're working together, coming up with an alternate route. What we're looking at is going down Blackstone and coming up Mechanic Street. That's one of the options. We're looking at it, and we have another meeting tomorrow afternoon to see what works best for everyone. But I just want to give everyone a heads up that that's going to be a problem coming down that whole route. We did have, at the meeting, it was brought to our attention that even the condition that it's in right now would not be safe for bands marching on it, let alone with the construction. Yeah, and the rocks and the stones and, you know, they can't sit. So there's that. I just wanted to update everyone. And Bellingham Days. I just need to know who, I mean, Dennis was so involved with that. Who headed by him? Did you have a committee? Do you have?
You had me.
Yeah.
You and me. So typically, the carnival's already set. They come, and then Tim goes out and does his thing when they set up, so they get their permits. I have already lined up, the town nonprofits who will staff the carnival. I do all of the, sign up genius, I coordinate, everyone for the carnival. I'm there every day. Typically, between me and Dennis, we were there around the clock, because we would run all the money. Dennis had already coordinated with, Chris Remillard, the bands for Saturday. We are not doing formal this year, so we are not dealing with beer gardens and food or anything over at the library. We're making it simple. I think Dennis also booked the fireworks already.
Yes,
with
I
the-
found a contract for that.
Yep. For that Saturday, as long as there's no rain and we're not in a drought and the fire marshal says no. The high school is doing the concession stand on Saturday like they would normally do. The Bellingham Friends of Music, and it's, OpGrad 2024 and Bellingham Friends of Music are the ones who are staffing the carnival this year. They'll split. Bellingham Friends of Music will staff it Thursday, Friday. OpGrad will have it Saturday. And I will coordinate I set all of that up and coordinate with them.
Right, so I would like to sit with you.
Yeah.
And do what we need to do and what I can do and what any of the other department heads or employees, if they're interested.
Yeah, it's pretty much just, yeah, the only other thing that I would need is the lots and lots of porta potties for, for the weekend.
That'll be Melissa,
Yeah,
so she'll go through that. We'll touch base with her. Make
Yeah.
sure that's.
last year, and I would bring it up to whoever we have, new chiefs, I would love to have, fire did come last year and set up a little tent on Saturday and gave some things out.
I think they'll be very excited about that.
And then we typically have, we do need to have police detail. We usually have 2 on. And that's usually funded out of the celebration account.
Okay, good. All right, we'll get
Yeah.
together
Yeah, it's really, it doesn't get kind of hairy until
right before.
July, yeah.
Yes, I remember him racing around and all that fun stuff.
Yep, until Saturday morning when he called me and said, you know what, I think you can handle this. I'll see you at 4 o'clock. And I went, what? Yeah, so.
Okay, that's it for my
Sure.
report.
Anything else? Anything else? No? I think that we have satisfied our agenda. I want to thank everybody for their participation. I want to thank everybody for listening in. Make sure that everybody gets out and vote. This board as it sits right now may not be the same board as of May 3rd. So I will just say thank you for all of your support. It's been fun and I certainly hope I get reelected, but you never know. So I just wanted to say thank you to the town of Bellingham, all of the years of support, and I hope to be back on May 3rd. Kelly? No?
Can we
Ditto.
thank you for serving? It takes a lot of time.
Well, we love it. I love doing it. I love doing it. So, all right, see that we satisfied our agenda. It is 8:45. Oh.
It is
that's very quick.
7:45.
7:45. I'm telling you, it's what happens when you don't sleep for 36 hours. It's what happens. So it's 7:45. I should just get a digital watch.
Yep, and go Bruins.
Go Bruins. And Dairy Queen still also.
You want to make a motion to close the meeting?
I will make a motion to adjourn at 7:46.
First and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, thank you.